Bienvenidos a Disrupt Everything, podcast series by Isra García. Reinvéntate a ti mismo y cambia lo que más te importa.
Hi everyone, this is Isra Garcia, and this is a new episode of Disrupt Everything podcast series. As always, I try to deconstruct and I try to bring disruptors, people that really adds value, people that really are changing the things that matters, people that is worth talking about and worth bringing to this podcast because the life they're living, what they're doing, what they're creating, what they're inventing, what they are designing, what they are disrupting. And this time I got somebody which I was, at least for 5 months, 6 months, chasing him in a good sense, and trying to get him in the podcast because I knew it was going to be amazing. It was going to be what I like it, because when I met him back in Sydney, in Bondi Beach, thanks to our friend Greed, I knew this guy was some kind of a disruptor. His name is Joe Gardner, and Joe is a multi-time entrepreneur with more than 8 years of experience founding, growing, and selling technology, selling companies, and selling things that really creates value. Joe's experience also has an investor side, successful founder, and also a business operator. And all of this has led him to create a profile network of entrepreneurs that are working together, also investors, operators, and the so-called Silicon Valley, and Northeast ecosystem. Joe now is currently CEO of Venture Depths and managing partner at Advantage Ventures. Joe has been creating business all these years, and also Joe has a interesting lifestyle, and because this is what really at the beginning when I met him is what really impacted me, because at that time I didn't know, he was a successful entrepreneur who started a lot of businesses. I didn't know because I didn't ask, and he also wasn't bragging about this. He also was just living, and he was jumping from city to city, like living and disconnecting, having like every city like as a retreat, and this is intrigued me a lot, and this is why I want to bring Joe to the podcast. Joe, thank you for being here, and thank you for taking the time and taking also the resources to be here and come from Los Angeles to Santa Monica, which is where we are recording this podcast now, in Santa Monica here in United States. And thank you for being here.
Yeah, well, thanks for that grand introduction. So hopefully I'll have something interesting to say to back all that up. But yeah, you didn't have to be chasing me for 5 months. Was happy to sit down and talk anytime. So I'm glad we finally found the time. But yeah, appreciate all the nice things you had to say. But likewise to you. It's been great getting to know you, and much more interesting things ahead for us. But happy to finally sit down. So yeah. I'm ready for your questions here.
I had to say the chasing was in a funny way, because we were supposed to have this interview through Skype, but we decided once I was going to be in Burning Man and Los Angeles and here in Santa Monica, why not doing it in person? It was a great idea, but Joe and I, and we decided hell yes, because it's always better in person. It's like a conversation, And Joe, I have a question I've been asking myself since I had the chance to interview you, to have you here in the podcast, to have this conversation, because at the same time it's selfish, because I'm eager and really really, keen on learning as much as I can about you and also from you. And so that my question is, will you be able to put your life and career, your life and career path into perspective and give us or give me your most significant highlights? Highlights, for with highlights I mean the big ones, the great ones, and the not so great ones. I mean, from little Joe to the Joey I'm now facing. I mean, it's an interesting question for me. One of the story is, will you be able to put all of these and as highlights in determinate in a timeline in a story?
Yeah, well,
You have plenty of time.
Yeah, the story. I don't know how far necessarily we would go back, but from a business perspective and career wise, I think the sort of brief, very brief overview of that is that coming out of college was 2008 when the financial crisis was happening, and at the time I fancied myself a finance guy. I was always interested in the stock market. Had quite a few internships that were in or surrounding that industry, and for better or for worse, at the time it was not easy to get a job in that industry. So I wasn't able to get a job that I was ideally looking for. Some of the banks I was interviewing with were closing down, Lehman Brothers, Bear Stearns. So I wound up actually getting a job. I needed to work, needed to make some money. So I wound up going to work for a commercial interiors company. And that's sort of maybe a fancy way of calling an office furniture company. So that wasn't my ideal choice of company, and wanted to be working into financial markets and doing all these things. But the reality was they weren't hiring and I needed a job. So really I was put in this position of being kind of low man on the totem pole, being a sales guy, trying to go out and get business. And through that process and through that role at the company, there was other responsibilities, not just on the sales side, from actually finding clients, like I just said, but also seeing a project through to the end, which involved managing a bit of a team, a design team, an installation team, ordering things from the manufacturer. And well, at the time, I can honestly say I didn't love office furniture, and still don't today, but I did really love the job. And I think from looking back at it now, having that experience of actually being in a real company, being in a sales role that's actually sort of a management role as well, managing a bit of a team, was probably the best education and best experience I probably could have gotten. Even though at the time I thought I should be doing something in the stock market, working on Wall Street. I was sort of looking at a lot of my other friends who were working, had these great jobs that I thought that I wanted. But the reality of some of that situation was I was thrust into a position where I had to go out and get clients on my own. I had to manage a team. If something went wrong, it fell on my shoulders. I had to fall on the sword. The money would come out of my pocket if there was a problem. And then if I made deals, of course, I was making more money. In retrospect, it was really a great experience that I didn't know it at the time, but definitely gave me the confidence to go and start my own thing. And ultimately, that's what I wound up doing. Found an investment opportunity. I guess the flip side of that coin of the financial crisis in 2008 was that it was also a great time to be investing money. I hadn't really been in the market before that, so putting your money when it was at the bottom.
So you had money. You had money by that time, and you could.
It was saving up some money, and the market was at pretty much as low as it could get at that time. So I was fortunate that things went really well for me from the investment standpoint.
Where did you invest it?
What's that, sir?
Where did you invest it?
It was in the market at the time. So that I did still use some of my thinking I'm this stockbroker, financial guy. So that worked out well. Performed pretty well while I was being sort of an office furniture salesman. What that allowed me to do was save up some money, and always knew that I wanted to start my own thing. Didn't necessarily know what that was. And around that time,
What year was? What year was this?
this was probably around 2010, 2011, let's call it. I had a couple years working at the company, and then sort of got to the point where I had enough money saved up where I thought I could go explore something. And in all reality, what the initial catalyst was that I had an idea for a business, and I was staying up late at night thinking about this idea, thinking about the prospect of starting this business, and sort of running through these ideas in my mind all the time.
What was the idea?
The idea was something close to what you might consider TripAdvisor now. It's kind of a hybrid between a travel agency and sort of searching for travel solutions at the masses, like in Orbitz. You go on Orbitz and you find every hotel that's in every city. I wanted to have something kind of in the middle. So I don't know that the idea was completely like TripAdvisor, but TripAdvisor wasn't what it was at the time, or didn't even exist. I don't know yet. But anyway, it was sort of an idea in that space, ultimately sort of poking some holes in the idea and really thinking about it. Ultimately, I decided that it wasn't feasible.
What was the reason you decided it wasn't feasible?
There was a couple of business model flaws that I had. So realized the sort of way to make money was, in my mind, wasn't going to be sort of legally possible based on a lot of the contracts and way that actually companies like Expedia and these massive travel conglomerates operate. The idea that I had for making money wasn't exactly there. But the point being is that, I realized I wasn't staying up late at night thinking about my job that I was going to every day. So kind of that whole process and the excitement in thinking about it made me realize that I just really needed to start something of my own or get involved with another company. So it was around that time that I wound up quitting the company. I didn't have an idea, a concept. I didn't have another job lined up, but I really wanted to give that process its full, devote as much of my mental capacity to trying to figure out what was coming next. And it was a very interesting point in time for me. A lot of opportunities seem to come your way when you speak to people and they say, "What are you doing?" If you say you work at a office furniture company, people say, "Oh, cool." Unless they need some office furniture, they're not super interested. And I think that goes for a lot of industries that are out there.
It is.
But if you answer the question, what are you doing? And you say, "Well, I actually just quit my job. I'm thinking about starting something. I don't know exactly what I'm going to do next."
People will resonate and will hook you up.
People decide to give you their ideas, steer you in the right a new direction, and make introductions for you. So it was a really interesting period of time for me when things just started coming to me, just by having basic conversation. And I'm a big believer of, probably due to this, that the way you answer a few questions in life dictates how things come to you. I experienced it firsthand. And so a number of things came to me. Ultimately, I decided that there was a sort of a software company that was in the fashion and entertainment space that had a small team, had a nice product, had a great CTO, and a nice opportunity in the market. So I decided that was kind of the opportunity that I wanted to go with. I invested a little bit of money and kind of came in as a co-founder to help build the company from the ground up, essentially.
What was which company?
So it was my last company that co-founded. Is called Motosphere. Motosphere, yeah. So it's kind of fashion sphere.
Motosphere.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Spanish is
Spanish.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So few I guess probably Latin-based languages. Moda is fashion.
Yeah. And how did you get there? And what was the process for?
Yeah, it was that I had just met one of the co-founders of the company, and he was looking for some investment. He was looking for somebody to come in and help build the business, and I ultimately decided to be that person. So came in, invested a little bit of money, and decided to kind of three of us. There was a couple other people involved, from the beginning, but we decided that was what we were doing. So we were building this company. It was again a logistics platform for the fashion and entertainment space, but the majority of our clients were modeling agencies, talent agencies. So we were a pretty core product in what they were doing, and we had kind of visions of being a Facebook for the industry. So it's sort of tying in all components of how an agency operates, how that ties in with photographers, booking locations, anything like that. And Instagram didn't exist at this point in time, so we had a big portfolio section.
2011.
This was 2011 when I ultimately decided to dive into this. So that was kind of the first business, I guess, that I started. The concept wasn't mine, but I saw an opportunity there with the early stages of something that could be great. And there's two
Did
other
it work?
founders. What's that?
Did it work?
Yeah, it worked. It definitely wasn't pretty and wasn't
But it was
great
effective
all the time. But the system was definitely the best in the market for sure. We were kind of competing against a few companies that were 12 to 15 years old. They had been entrenched and had most of the client base, but we had a better product, better cost, and just sort of better overall customer service. We really paid attention to these things. So, we kind of hit the market pretty strongly. We stole a good portion of market share over the course of a couple years, and then that was enough to garner the attention of one of our competitors, who happened to be actually owned by a larger company that was more involved in the entertainment space. I won't go into all the details, but they ultimately wound up acquiring us. I think they saw the value in what we brought from a technical standpoint. Probably when I say that, more so the people on our team, the great technical talent. Of course, they liked our market share and our client base, but they really saw that we knew what we were doing from a technical perspective, and how to build products and how to roll it out quickly and how to meet the demands of the market. And
would you say that was the key for they wanted to acquire us?
Yeah, I think it was definitely one of them. We had initial talks about some kind of partnership, about how the company might work together, and I think as they started to learn more about us and see more about how good we really were, I think that changed, and I could even see that in our discussions, that I knew that they were more interested in buying us at that point. It was a great run, and I think it was a great learning experience through that. I can definitely say that I took a lot of lessons from the furniture company.
What were the lessons you took from that has proven essential from the furniture company?
Yeah, I think, and I've actually written an article about this recently, talking about how most companies, whether it be technology or furniture or anything else, really are all pretty simple. They're similar, but they doesn't matter if the product itself is a technology app for the fashion industry, or if it's a cubicle for an office. At the end of the day, you have a product. You need to build a great, strong product. You need to have people to service that, to service your clients, make sure that they're happy, and above all else, being kind of in the CEO role, it's that you need to have a company that's working well together, that the team is great, and they're always sort of pushing towards the goals that you set. So the only difference that would change from a furniture company or an app is that one is an electronic digital product and one is a hard physical product. But besides that, the operation of the company, by and large, they're quite simple. Quite similar. I think in the operation of the team and how we functioned, we cared about our people. Everybody cared about the mission of the company. Everybody was on board. Even, we weren't the biggest company out there by any means, but had great people that were really passionate about what we were doing. And for me, that was super enjoyable. Above all else, I can't say I love office furniture today, and I don't know that I could say that I love, a logistics platform for the fashion industry, but it's more about building something with a team that everybody was focused on, was all in on, and that we were all there to
finding
support
the
and
right
help
talent.
each other. Yeah, exactly. So, and what I can say is that I also through that process learned how great we were at actually building products, and that can 100% be attributed to my partner and the CTO of that company, co-founder, and still today my partner in all of our businesses.
This means something with a long partnership. Partnerships nowadays last the same as as the marriage.
Yeah,
Nothing.
yeah, that is true for sure. And I've learned a lot about partnerships in the process as well. And yeah, despite everything, the thing I can definitely say I was happiest about, even going through an acquisition and all that stuff, was definitely meeting and bonding with my current partner of Whitetech.
What have you learned about partnerships that really stuck in you?
Yeah, well, we did have another partner in the company. There was three of us, and potentially I didn't do as much diligence as I should have, but I was young. I was 26, I think, kind of going into this thing and being a trusting guy, and maybe didn't have all the proper documents signed and some of the legal things that probably definitely should have taken place. But I definitely learned that you should take your time with these things. You should make sure that it's somebody you're definitely interested in doing business with, and I would say, yeah, you just have to be careful. Don't rush into things, and I think that from a just contractual basis, you should always make sure that the sort of company is protected, as well as having a fair arrangement with founders. I too often see these scenarios that now I'm in this position where I see a lot of businesses and help advise and whatnot. I'll call it the sort of college dorm room type of agreement, where a person has an idea for a company. They might be sitting on the couch just like you and I are right now, and they say, this is a really great idea. Okay, you're going to be the CEO, I'm going to be the COO. We're going to build this company up, and you're going to get 50% and I'm going to get 50%. I hear this type of thing all the time, and usually it's from people that have maybe not started a business before and haven't seen the pitfalls of doing something like this. But 9 times out of 10, maybe even 9.5 times out of 10, you see this actually go horribly wrong, because they'll drop the paperwork, you get 50%, I get 50%, but there's no vesting period, so you just get that equity. One of the two of us decide, well, we don't really want to work that hard, so one of the founders is working way harder than the other one. Doesn't really make sense. Commitment. Yeah, and it's just, I've seen it time and time again, so that's something to be wary of, and maybe I was guilty of that myself as a 26-year-old getting involved in my first founding of my first company. So I can definitely say that was a lesson learned, and I guess with experience you see this enough times, so I always try to caution that. So any founders out there, make sure to have a vesting schedule for all of your founders, and make sure that you have a fair compensation package, and that doesn't just mean you get 50%, I get 50%. Let's go and do this thing, because more than likely that's not going to work out well.
And then you go in 2012. You go through an acquisition, and then you sell the company.
Yeah, so I believe that was 2015.
3 years, 2015,
2016. Yeah.
And then what?
Yeah, and then it's a good question. So after the acquisition, I actually stayed on with the acquiring company for a bit to kind of help through the transitional phase. I think back to that point in time in my life, I told you when I sort of didn't have the answer, what are you up to? People knew that I sold my company, and they say, well, what's up next? So, well, I don't really know. We're just sort of exploring options and seeing what's out there. And similarly to in 2011 when this happened, I think a lot of opportunities just started getting thrown into our laps. So some of those were, I guess I would say, impressive individuals that we knew who were looking to start a company. And they didn't have the technical component, so turned to me, sort of asked for help, and I sort of offered our help because wasn't doing anything else. Then again, sort of speaking to people and mentioning this, that we were helping other companies. Then they just started saying, well, my company needs help, technical help. Can you help us with that? And before we knew it,
When you say technical help, what do you mean for that?
yeah, so for the first opportunity that came in, it was a longtime friend of mine who's been very successful in his career. And he was looking to start a new venture. Like I said, he didn't have the technical component. He's not a technical guy. So he sort of needed that, I guess, technical co-founder, technical component to his new venture. So
Going for clients,
yeah,
structure.
yeah, just to sort of build the platform, to build the product. His was a digital product. I think that he had all the rest of the bases covered with the sort of clients, with the ability to market, raise money. But when coming to the actual product, he didn't have anyone there to build it. And being a non-technical founder can be a daunting challenge of trying to build a product and you don't actually have any idea what the responsibilities or what the even competencies might be for the person who should have that job, nor do you necessarily know how to hire that person. I think based on that trust of the long time relationship and the fact that this individual knew how great my partner was, it got that kicked off and just decided to sort of help him build up a technical team that could go and build his product. So I think that was super valuable to him. It was pretty easy for us. We have a lot of connections and a lot of experience building these kind of things. So just putting the team together didn't take much on our end, but was tremendously helpful for him. And so, from there, I think we got a lot of other requests coming in similar to that, saying, trying to build this, can you help us out? And also, not just companies that were starting for the first time, but actually larger corporations that also knew some of the things that we had done, maybe had a relationship with me or with my partner. And so it kind of thrust us into this space that we're in high demand just because we were sort of free and had some time.
And you had a good job. You did a good job.
Yeah.
And your work speak by yourself.
Yeah, I'd like to think so. So
always when you good shit always sticks.
Yeah, there you go. I will have to remember that one for sure. But I'd say that it was just a really cool time again, that things were kind of coming to our plate, and having a successful exit was great, cool, nice. It was a success for the company and for our team. But then it was also very cool, I would say, that just these people wanted our attention, wanted to be involved with us. And so that kind of changed things. And I think just kind of getting a little taste of that, we knew that there was something that we could create that would put us in a position where we knew that we could do a great job. We've done it before. I guess for what it's worth is these opportunities were coming at us so fast, and we said, sure, we'll help you out, that we really didn't have any intention on starting a business out of that. But we realized that we were already running a business because we had money coming in. We didn't have a name for the company.
You were doing by passion, for fun.
Yeah, it
because
was.
It's interesting, and you learn is what, the biggest and most successful businesses starts like this, by not being a business.
Yeah, that's how we started for sure. Is we were helping some friends, and we had money coming in. We didn't have a name for a company. We didn't have a website. We didn't have anything. It was all just people that we knew, or maybe one link removed from direct acquaintances. So we kind of took a step back at one point and said, who are we kidding? We're already running a business here. So we need to come up with a name, figure out how we're going to operate, how we would want to do it.
On the contrary of everyone does it, right? Just start a business, let's find a name, let's build a website, let's build a product, and you did it on the contrary. I mean, you worked your ass off, and then you say, okay, now we got a business. What should we do, right?
Yeah. Well, when you put it like that, it's definitely it happened a lot easier. So this business is Venture Devs. So ultimately, we did come up with a name, which is Venture Devs, I think Venture Devs just even a couple of years in, we've grown extremely quickly, but it doesn't feel like we're building a business at sometimes. It's just happening. We really love what we're doing. Where even with Motosphere, there was definitely some trying times where we had to pry open doors and really push. And of course, we're doing many of the similar things with venture devs, but being in the position of helping companies, seeing a ton of companies now, investing in quite a lot of companies with the creation of our fund is, yeah, exactly as you said, is that people kind of sit in a room, try to come up with an idea, they try to force it, they...
You have to be born by, like, has to be fire in the belly,
Yeah, I think, I think that is true, but I think I see a lot of people that do maybe have that passion, certainly that they have that excitement. I don't know if you
but
can
they don't
equate
have the
excitement
knowledge and the
passion.
experience.
Yeah, or I think just like I had the idea for the travel company, as I was staying up late at night, and I had that excitement, and I see that a lot from people, and that's great. And I have excitement for them because I've experienced it myself, and I think that that's really cool. But the difference being is that I think that people are generally trying to take the peg and fit it into a hole. They don't necessarily know what size the hole is or what size the peg is, but they have this idea and they think it is going to work. And that's like most companies that are out there.
It's more easy and effective to create products for your clients than finding clients for your product.
1,000%. So that, I think for me, we're talking to a ton of startups. Some companies that are some of the fastest growing companies in LA are our clients, and it's really awesome to work with them and watch them grow and all of that stuff. But I think that without sounding ridiculous here, but I think that we often have an easier time growing than some of these companies because what we're doing is something that we do well. Our product is something that we do well. We put together teams for companies. We help them build their products. We try to help them see how the business can actually grow from that. But yeah, we're great at building products, so that is our company. That's what we do. Whereas it's dependent on the company to go out and find their market. So that's kind of a distinction that we've definitely learned from building a product versus building a company. And so anybody can build a product. I shouldn't say anybody, but people can build a product. It's really your ability to sell and or market that product is dependent on your success. And so that's sort of one of our main philosophies on the fund. And when we see companies, because in our experience with venture devs, we had the market first. The market was sort of begging for our help. So the demand was already there. All we had to do was supply the demand. Whereas I think that some startups make the mistake of having this idea they think is great. They try to create a business out of it. And even worse is if they do turn to a company like ours and build this big product and spend a lot of money, their own money, or they raise money from family and friends, and they get this product, and at the end they realize that people actually maybe don't buy the product. Yeah, and I hate to see that, and I always am advising people to essentially go and find out if people want your product first. We're not in the business of taking anybody's life savings, so we kind of don't necessarily work with companies at that stage. Usually, but for what it's worth, I think that you're better off from a business standpoint for sure, knowing if you actually have a business.
And Joe, really quick, and I don't want to get you so deep full on that, but so deep in that is, what will be the most essential and fundamental steps to building a product that people buys?
Well, first, just what we were saying is to actually find out if there's a market for what you're trying to do. I hear a lot of times people call me, friends or someone who got introduced to me, they say, oh, we heard your company builds apps or can build software, and I need a CTO and I need to build something. So let me tell you all about my idea. And too often in that conversation, I hear the word I think. They say, I think that people are going to love it. I think that everyone's going to sign up, whatever it might be. And I always tell them, as much as you can remove those two words, I think, from the equation and turn it to I know, based on factual evidence or some data that you've collected. Um, First and foremost, you find out if you actually have a viable idea that people want. Then it sort of goes all the way down the chain, is that most of these companies are also trying to raise money. So if you're trying to raise money and you go to an investor, and we are investors, we invest in companies, is that if somebody says, I think that people are going to love it, no investor should really invest by hearing that. You should say, well, how do you know people are going to love
Exactly.
it? Have you conducted interviews? Do you have a sign-up page waiting for your product? And I think too often the mistake, or maybe not mistake, but what I see is that people have the idea, they think that they know how to put together a marketing plan or a sales strategy or all the rest of the components to a business, but they say, okay, I'm a business-minded person and I have no idea how to build a technical product. So let me reach out to some people who know technical stuff. And so while they don't even have a solid idea in their mind, they call and they say, give me the sort of 20-minute overview of what their concept is and whatever. And they say, how much is something like that going to cost me? And I have to unfortunately say I have no idea. Nobody would have any idea without sort of getting into the details and knowing exactly what you built. And that's something I've certainly learned being involved with software companies and stuff like that. Being formerly, I guess I would say, an ignorant, business-minded guy who didn't know anything about building technical products is you think you can just give an overview of a concept and say, well, what's that going to cost? How long it's going to take? It really doesn't work like that at all.
What are the next steps?
To
build the product, which other steps would you find fundamental? And
yeah, well, I think that there's a lot of steps to be able to figure that out. Is really having a solid conceptual idea of what you're going to be. It's funny when you go through the process of taking an idea that somebody has in their head and putting it down on paper or on designs and actually walking through
crucial.
that. Yeah, there's so much changes. It's funny how a room full of people, we could have 5 other people in this room right now and we would all have the same idea generally about an idea for an app that we want to build. But then when you actually are forced to put it down in designs and on paper, you're going to find that all 7 of us have totally different ideas of what we envisioned in that app or how it would work. So it's crucial to really outline the concept, how it's going to work from each different user perspective and have that outlined, designs and stuff like that. And then ultimately you ideally want a user experience person and great designer who can help you visually create a visual representation of what this should be. And that's sort of the first steps. And then behind that, if you have a technical team person, CTO, whatever it might be, they should be able to make the right decisions on what the technical foundation behind all of that should be. So there's quite a lot of steps. It definitely takes some time, and before anyone should necessarily be calling me and saying, how do I build this and how much is it going to cost, is we really have to educate people on how they're doing themselves a huge disservice if they try to jump straight into that. They really have to make
just
sure that
by need, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
And let's go back to college. I mean, education is a serious thing, yeah? In United States, Spain, Europe, everywhere in the world, basically. And how did you keep yourself motivated when you were in school to get where you are now?
So this is where the chat might veer off course a little bit, but I can't say that I was a huge lover of school. So I don't know that I would be the model citizen for that, but I went to a great college, learned a bit there, but I wasn't the greatest student of all time, and I think maybe that's just a personal character trait, is that I didn't necessarily love sitting in a classroom learning things that generally I was forced to learn and being given assignments and things like this. If I'm not kind of passionate about something, then I'm kind of checked out, unfortunately. So, of course, in college you got to be there and got to show up and you got to do what you're told to a degree. But I found myself, when I reached sort of the working world, even when I had internships throughout college, I was much more motivated by that. So, and then, yeah, also with those same internships, I had some that were great, some that were not so great. The ones that were not so great, I found myself completely disengaged. And I guess maybe now that we're talking it through here, is that was probably an indicator to me that I couldn't necessarily be someone that just worked a normal desk job working for somebody else and kind of being told what to do. Is that if I'm passionate about something, I'm going to go 110% for it. And maybe college I wasn't 110% passionate about. So
and this is why you were changing through internships and through activities and for to keep you motivated, right?
yeah, I just found really when I became most motivated was when I started my first company. Is really something changed through that process. Kind of changed just changed everything. Before I was a young guy, going out having fun. It was sort of my job was to sort of work hard, but make sure that you show up to work and do a good job, and then work for the weekend. People are saying this all the time. They're working for the weekend. When I started my company, there was no weekend. There was just sort of the company. I found myself not caring about too much. Not going out, not vacationing. It was sort of working, and that has definitely carried through until today for sure. So it's sort of
And was sorry to interrupt you. Sorry.
Yeah.
And what was the thing you most struggled with in your life or in your nowadays? What's the thing you most struggle with? And how did you overcome, if you overcame?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's hard to say right now because things are going pretty well.
Or back in the days?
Yeah, it's have to think of something, but nothing's jumping to mind. I guess maybe things are going pretty well right now, but. Yeah, I mean, I guess, the only thing that I can say is that, working kind of a desk job, and, sort of being a cog in the system of just, this is kind of the job that I'm supposed to have. I'm supposed to work. There's a lot of, like Tim Ferriss type of talk here, 4-hour work week. I just don't agree with too much of that stuff. And I certainly
kind of difficult.
Can remember times that I wasn't happy. Being at a job that I wasn't passionate about, and I guess since becoming an entrepreneur and starting things and doing that, I'm working harder than ever. I'm probably working more hours than ever. However, it doesn't really feel like that. I work happily, and so definitely, if you were to put me at a desk job right now and tell me to work 9 to 5 for some mission that I don't agree with or whatever, it's not going to be possible. So probably back to when I was doing that would be
at the end is the principles and what have been or what are actually what would you say that your 4 or 3 cardinal points that has brought you where you are right now?
3 cardinal points.
3, 2, 4.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I think, first and foremost, I think that relationships and friendships and how you treat people is important, of course, not just in business, but in life. From a business perspective, I think any company that you build is really a product of the people that you have there building it alongside of you. And that certainly carries over. It's sort of hard for me to even distinguish business and personal because it all blends together for me. My identity is my work, doing a lot of interesting things, meet a lot of interesting people. If I meet somebody in a business setting that I happen to like also, well, they're a friend. It's not like a business friend. It's really, I don't know that those two things can be sort of separated. So yeah, I would say relationships, how you treat people. I've certainly been in instances where I've seen bosses who were not pleasant to work for, and I don't know how people could necessarily really tolerate that. So I think between my partner and I, with all of our companies, that's something certainly central. We want to find great people, but we treat them well. We're doing these things together, and again, the company is a product of the people that you have there. And I guess maybe to have a second point would also be kind of a work-life balance. It goes along with that. I think that too often there can be this sort of idea that I have my personal life and I have my work life, and I'm going to sort of do my work as I have to, and then, as I said before, that working for the weekend type of thing. They're going to just work until the weekend, and then they're going to enjoy themselves. And I just don't think that that is really how it needs to be. People say all the time, find what you're passionate about, and you'll never work a day in your life, without being as cheesy as that maybe. I think that you really have to appreciate what you're doing, love what you're doing, and then working is not such a drudge. It's something that it's just part of your life. And at our companies we've also been pretty flexible, because the idea of 9 to 5 sitting in an office, I think that there's certain issues with that, commuting to work, wasting time there, commuting home from work, wasting time there, even something like, having nice clothes and to shower and to do all these things that are just sort of this rat race of things that waste a lot of time. And even just simple things. If somebody wants to go out for a walk in the park, or has to go to a doctor's appointment, or has to go just pick up some laundry or whatever it might be, the sort of system that we have built now, too many people are sort of trapped in this like inability to go even do something like voting, right? In the United States, they can't get off work to go vote.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's I don't know how this got started. It's sort of a controlling people type of mechanism, I suppose. But at our companies, we definitely emphasize having great people that are motivated and working hard. And we're not sitting there looking over their shoulder every second of the day and counting the minutes that they're doing something. We ultimately trust what they're doing, and they're performing, and you can kind of see that. You can tell. So if they want to go work from the beach someday and they're available to take a call, by all means, go ahead. So that's sort of maybe the second thing, is that kind of work-life balance, is that work needs to be an important part of your life, not you're trying to live two separate lives. And I don't know that I have a third thing for you at the moment, but travel. I think you should travel. So there you go. It's great things out there in the world, many great places to see. I have friends that are giving me a hard time regularly when they see that I'm traveling around the world and doing all these things. They think that it's all fun and games, but my phone is generally glued to my side, and I'm around and working and pushing things all the time. So they don't necessarily see all the great pictures of me sitting at the desk. I tell them all the time, doing the work. But yeah, I think that you shouldn't put these things off. Go travel, see the world, do fun stuff.
In the second point, you're saying work-life balance, and you are a successful serial entrepreneur who has designed his life around a winning lifestyle. Can you tell us how have you managed to do this? Because it's not easy, as we were saying.
Yeah, I think...
What did you need to do that? How did you make? How have you managed?
Well, I don't know exactly how I managed it, but I think that there was a certain desire to not be glued to a desk, for sure. And I think that somebody told me once upon a time, probably around the time I was starting the last company, or somewhere along the line, they said that if you're sort of to start a company, that the company is dependent on you being there every day, and you are essentially the company. That you're going to be there. The company is dependent on you being there for the rest of its existence, or your time doing it, and that's sort of not a way that you can look to build a scalable business. And so, in one way or another, I think that we're viewing companies as how we can scale ourselves out of the business. So, kind of currently doing that. We're a young company, about 2 years old now, for venture devs, but we're viewing everything as how we can grow the company to scale various individuals out of it, so that the machine of the company is operating, so that your time is freed up, so that we can do other things. We can build other companies potentially, or build new features to sort of grow the business. And if you're sort of singularly focused in I am the service, I am the company, then you're going to be kind of chained to that company forever. And it's nice to be able to have the flexibility if you are sort of viewing things that way, that you want to scale, you want to grow. And I joke with the company and with friends that I'm trying to essentially make myself irrelevant from the company so that the company can operate without me. Of course, I will be
this
involved.
This is the key component.
Yeah, and it's
if you can make this, you can scale your company, and you can make yourself irrelevant, which is amazing,
Yeah, and it's it's happening for us more quickly than I thought was probably possible, because as I gave you the origin story of people coming to us that had relationships with either me or my partner.
Why you think is happening this?
We're building it in a way that it's sort of central to what we want to do, but also I don't think that you can build a business keeping yourself as the identity
And the center.
Yeah, so we started out, and we still get business because people know me or they know my partner or whatnot. But we want people to know our brand and know the job that we do and know the reputation that our clients are sort of sharing with others, and that's a healthy way to grow the business. The starting point was us. Now the sort of future is the brand of the company.
Right?
Yeah, exactly.
So what do you think is the competitive advantage for venture devs?
Well, for us, I think a few things. I think when we were really starting this company, and at the time we didn't know it was going to be a company, is that we just were helping friends, and we said, okay, well, listen, you're our friends. We're going to help you structure this thing like we would do it for ourselves. And that's what we did then, and I think that's still what we do today. When we meet companies, we look at it as though they were our own companies and say, this is what we would do if we were in your position. And I think a lot of companies that are doing similar things to us, there are a lot of them. We've worked with companies like ourselves in the past. We've had in-house technical teams, we've had contractors, we've had outsourced solutions. So I've gotten a chance to see a lot of things that are out there, and as the sort of CEO of a company, I was never jumping up and down to go work with any of the solutions outside of saying, yeah, we wish we could hire our own in-house team. And that's what we hear a lot of. However, being in that position of having seen all of these things, we realize we have some core competencies that are really amazing. My partner is essentially has a little bit of notoriety and fame in the Polish ecosystem. I don't know if I mentioned this in this call at all, but he's a very well-known Polish entrepreneur, developer who created the first and largest social network for Poland. So Poland just happens to be a hotbed for technical talent, and having a well-known Polish figure as my partner and CTO and somebody that a lot of people look up to has always helped us get great talent. And I think that is sort of definitely one unique advantage that we had, and certainly the amazing talented people who are working with us in Poland has been partially attributed to that, I think. So it's a unique advantage. Not everybody has that. We had that, but as I was sort of just touching on, is that I think that we have had the perspective of looking at building a business. So when we talk to clients, we sit there and say, okay, how is this helping your business? How is this helping your technical product and whatnot? Whereas, I can't speak for all of our competitors or people doing what we're doing, but I think a lot of times they look at their clients and say, how is it best for us to make money from these people? I certainly don't want to be saying anything negative about all the rest of the companies that are out there, but I think for us, we do have that sort of entrepreneurial perspective, and we created exactly what we're doing for how we would operate ourselves. So I think that other companies that we talk to see that, and also we have two founders who have been successful entrepreneurs and have built and sold companies.
They know how to do it.
Yeah, we sort of have that sort of business and technical perspective, and we're also fortunate to have a great network of people who are happy to be singing our praises and introducing us to people, and for me that's been the most enjoyable. Just the people we've spoken to, met with, seeing the companies, small and
Giving
large,
you feedback
startups,
also,
bigger
yeah.
corporations, venture funds. Now we're connected to most of the people out there, and it's been really enjoyable, that component.
Do you have mantra? Do you have something that repeat yourself every day? Do you
Uh,
have something that really stuck in your mind, or is like your core philosophy?
I can't say that I do. Maybe I should work on one.
And or do you have something that you really believe every day, or something that says, this is important for me?
Well, I think the only thing that comes into my mind every day is probably our company. I think that probably goes back to the fact that I'm really passionate about what we're doing.
Nice.
It's really enjoyable. So, I think that you could probably ask most entrepreneurs out there, and if they have a company, they're thinking about it every day, no matter what. So, that is definitely the case, and I enjoy that. I enjoy working. It is good sometimes to try to turn that off, and so I do try to.
In Burning Man.
Perhaps. Certain places where you have to try to try to unplug. So.
We were together in Burning Man, and we were. I offered the chance to have an interview in Burning Man, and he said, "No, in Burning Man not the right time. After Burning Man." So it means this is true.
I think LA was the better place.
Exactly.
LA was the better place.
And what set of rules you have set for yourself?
Rules?
What rules you have for yourself?
I don't know that I've set any specific rules, but
once you think, you say, "Oh, kind of rule."
Kind of rule.
Or like sometimes it's not a rule, but it's like a saying or a commitment, or
I don't know that I have some of that. I have been trying to work on more, balanced work-life balance, and by that, trying to have that in my sort of weekly routine. I tend to be too much in like an all-work mode, and then take a little bit of time off to unwind.
How did you?
Well, I can't. I haven't solved the puzzle just yet.
How are you struggling with this?
Well, I've gone through exercises of going through planning my week so that I can break up certain things, and I have to have reminders in there of, hey, you're supposed to not work, or you're supposed to be taking some time off there. So that's been helpful. But besides that, it's I think that there are healthy ways to work and healthy ways not to work, and so you can't work all the time and go too crazy. You have to rely on people on your team. And for me, I like to actually take one day per week where I just tune out a bit. So I try not to have phone around me too much, try not to have any real responsibilities, try to be able to kind of do whatever I please. And that's kind of nice. It allows you to not make decisions for a day, it allows you to kind of just go with the flow. For me, that's been pretty helpful. Without having, let's call it rules, that's something that I follow regularly. I try to unplug one day per week.
We first met in Sydney, in the island, in the party in the middle of the bay. Pretty insane. I had to be honest. You were traveling. But that time I remember you were traveling as a retreat or disconnection period for work, right? Can you explain me as better what practices you apply to your life to live better life and to produce more quality work when you are at work?
Yeah, so kind of what I was saying is that I don't do too well, or haven't been doing too well, with sort of week by week work-life balance, but I go in
well
these,
on a long period.
Yeah, I go through these swings where I'm sort of all in work mode, and then I will take a trip somewhere and kind of unplug for a little while anyway. And for me, that it's actually something I learned with my previous company when, definitely when things weren't going well. I sort of thought, I got to keep grinding, got to keep working, push. And then what wound up happening was I took a trip for 2 weeks, and it happened to be over sort of the Christmas, New Year's time, which is sort of a built-in natural holiday or time off because people are not working, not really doing much, not many emails coming in. And yeah, after that sort of 2.5 weeks, whatever it was I took off at the time, somewhere around the 2 week mark, I felt a change, that I actually felt like I had all this energy and this power and this motivation to go back and work. And then when I got back, I found myself way more productive than I was before. So kind of going through the experience of thinking, just keep pushing, keep pushing, keep pushing. No, there's no way I can take a week off. I think that I've experienced firsthand that that's probably a mistake. So my way of maybe doing that in the sort of short term is this sort of 1 day per week where I kind of take off, unplug, and it's funny talking about traveling and things like this. Even when I'm traveling, usually I'm working, but you got to mix in some fun things there. And I think when you hear and see things with Elon Musk, for example, about him sleeping at the factory and doing all these types of things, I don't think he wants to hear from me. But I think that having a week or two off for him, could probably prove to be a lot more effective for him than
unleash.
Yeah.
And Joe, can you tell me something freak that you have that really freaks you out?
Sorry?
Something freak?
Something freak.
Yeah, that rare, odd that you have that sometimes freaks even freaks you out.
Oh God, I don't know that I have any of those. I like to consider myself a pretty normal guy. Yeah, I don't know. That one I might be lost for words, lost for an answer for you, unfortunately.
What habits are you trying to get rid of?
Habits am I trying to get rid of? Well, I think avoiding this sort of extremism of work-life balance. If I can be a little bit more balanced throughout the week, month, whatever it might be, that would be great. Besides that, don't smoke, don't really drink much. Like to have fun from time to time, but yeah, I don't know. I'm sort of maybe I'm all in on work mode at the moment, so I'm staying in that mindset. But yeah, I don't know. I like to think I'm pretty healthy. So
nice. Yeah. So
yeah.
what's
habits? Getting back to the gym. Gotta get
getting back to the gym. Second one.
There we go.
Perfect.
Yeah.
What is the best and most successful business technique that you possess? What do you think?
Business technique? I don't know. I think it is probably caring about the people that are around you, building your company, your vision. You're all doing it kind of together. So it's something where I really appreciate my team. I appreciate everybody around me, and I think that sort of makes a lot of difference.
How do you push them?
I think that to a degree I have really great people that are sort of self-motivated, and that is a huge thing, so that you don't have to be the one pushing them all the time. You want people who can push themselves and help, when they've bought into everything that's going on, then it becomes, their company. This is not, I don't necessarily view, I never view what we're doing as like my company and a bunch of people who work for me. It's all of ours. We're all building it. We're all doing it together. So yeah, it's funny. I always say we and ours and things, and people are always asking me.
Never heard you telling about mine.
Yeah, it's people are always asking, like, when you say we, who are you saying? And everybody. Yeah, it's not just my partner. Even it's our whole company that is pushing towards the same goals. So that's something just kind of how I am, and I think hopefully the team acknowledges that or recognizes that. But again, I have seen the flip side of that, where people are not like that, bosses or managers or things like that, and I think that's very.
How do you think you developed this skill? Maybe because you saw it and you didn't want to do like this.
Yeah, for sure.
It felt like in yourself, in your skin.
Yeah, I mean, I can't tell you exactly where I came from, but I think that every experience that you have is, teaches you a little something. So, yeah, for sure, I've seen things that I know that I don't want to do, and so maybe some of those things have steered me into more of the opposite direction. But yeah, it's at the end of the day, it's all about people. So that's my philosophy in business. find great people, treat them well, and then with that you can achieve anything. So.
Amazing philosophy, let me tell you. I know we know you work a lot, you work your ass off, and you are really focused on business. What do you feel when you feel overwhelmed or stressed? Any special tips or relievers?
Let me think. I think that the way that I've tended to operate, again, going back to this sort of taking a break here and there, is that I don't get too stressed or too overwhelmed until you kind of have the pedal to the metal for a prolonged period of time. And I think, like anyone, you just get kind of tired, kind of burnt out. And then I sort of realize, okay, now it's time for a break here or there. Take a week and go somewhere, travel,
Nice.
and whatnot. And even honestly, I have to say, 2 years ago, it was sort of the Christmas, New Year's time. And usually I'll go travel, go somewhere, enjoy New Year's somewhere. But it was actually the very early days of venture devs getting started, and for some reason I just wasn't feeling like traveling. I think actually a lot of meetings were coming at me, and I guess we just decided to start this as a company, and was probably feeling very overwhelmed at the time. So I just actually stayed home. Was by myself for like 2 weeks, really just unplugged, like wrote out all my plans for the year, all the goals for the company. Yeah, what's that?
Home retreat.
Yeah, exactly. So it was. I don't know if I left the house for 2 weeks.
Socrates always said that you don't have to travel somewhere else to see the world and to feel yourself and feel alone.
Yeah. It was. Well, it is relaxing and rewarding and nice to go travel and see things and whatever. You're sort of still expending energy. You have to plan these things. You have to do all this stuff. For me, that 2 weeks was maybe one of the most productive times I've ever had. I just stayed home. Like I said, I wrote out everything, had time with my thoughts, was thinking, planning, setting all the goals, all the ideas for what the future of venture devs could be. And that for me is still probably one of the best times. So I'm still trying to figure out how I can work that in, because it's a balance between, do I want to go travel to an amazing place, or do I have the luxury or ability to say, I'm just not going to work for this week and I'm just going to think with myself and my thoughts and
Have some time to think.
Yeah.
Let me tell you that what you're doing, it sounds really familiar and really resonant to me now, because it's what I'm doing right now here in Santa Monica. I took this month. I'm not unplugged, but I'm working, I'm quiet, and it's been the most productive week in almost 4 or 5 months.
Yeah.
Because when you travel, you're wasting. Well, not wasting. It needs energy, and you traveling, you're not as much as productive as you can be, and sometimes be by yourself and just 90% of the time we create action. We action things. We are actionable, but we need to have this 10% to think and plan and recreate and rethink and redesign. Yeah, and following that line of following that topic, what's been your biggest failure? What do you feel has been your biggest failure, and why?
Failure. Let's see.
We're gonna get into the finish now, huh?
Yeah. Got it. So go with the tough questions at the end. So for me, it's tough to say. I think something that I think a lot about is sort of my hockey playing career. I played my whole life, and that was my passion certainly growing up until probably age 16 or 17, something like that. And somewhere along the line, I just sort of lost my passion for it. Something I alluded to earlier is that I think if I'm not passionate about something, it's very hard for me to force myself to do it. And if I am passionate about something, it's without a thought. I'm all in and I'm doing it. And sometimes I think about that because my hockey career kind of faded at some point, which I guess it does for 99% of all athletes. But it's something that stays in my mind, especially when I watch the NHL on TV and I see some old friends playing and things like that. So you sort of wonder, how things could have been if some things had worked out differently. And it's tough having something be your passion for a good majority of your life, and then all of a sudden it's gone, and you're not playing, and you're not competing, you're not doing those things. But so that's something that kind of sticks in my head. But I think my life would be very different if
really different.
Yeah, exactly. So
you won't be maybe in Burning Man with us, and you won't be
Sydney,
in Sydney or in Barcelona in October. We see each other, or in Valencia. Joe, what are the secret resources that you go to when you want to grow and improve? The secret resources that you want to go to when you want to grow or improve.
What do you mean by that exactly?
Like any blog, book, mentor, person, podcast, video, old saying, proverbs.
Yeah, got it.
Resources in a common sense, maybe.
Yeah, I mean,
songs.
For me, the most enjoyable, honestly, is just being left alone with my thoughts, to be able to think. As I heard you just allude to, I know you're traveling a lot and you're doing a lot of things, and to hear you say that you're experiencing this productivity now just because you're sort of being left alone, is that it's very rare that you get that time and that ability and that luxury to just actually think and plan. And without pointing to a specific resource, I think that in a lot of those times when I've actually had 2 weeks to myself, or when you're generally unplugged and you get to read a book that you've been wanting to read for a while, all sorts of ideas and thoughts come up. And I recently read the book Principles by Ray Dalio, one of the biggest hedge fund managers in the world. Principles, yeah. And from a business or organizational standpoint, from building a business and how to treat people and how to interact, it was the best book I've ever read from just like a building a company perspective. And it's funny, it seems that some of the books that I've read I've read them at the right time. Oddly enough, once upon a time when I started my last company, I was reading 4 Hour Workweek, Tim Ferriss's book, as the company is just kind of getting started, and all his tips and tricks on how to start a company and how to do it and save money and all of these types of things, how to separate from your current job. So I was fortunate to kind of read that right at the right time as I was experiencing it. And in this instance, the Principles is a lot about how to structure an organization. And as we're a quickly growing company, and we're going through a lot of those things right now, and so a lot of ideas and things came up. So, I don't have a book or a song or anything that I go to every time, but oddly enough, when I'm sort of left alone with some time and pick up a book, it tends to be, it's happened a few times that it's been the right book at the right time. So that's pretty interesting.
What's the book you would love to read? What's your next book?
Right now, I don't know. I literally just finished Principles, so I need to see what's next on the list, but I'll circle back with you on that one.
Perfect.
Yeah.
What advice would you give to yourself if you were born again?
If I was born again,
what piece
so
of
I
advice?
gotta go all the way back there, or am I giving advice to me right now?
To you right now, but going back, and if you were born.
Yeah. I don't really know, the things that it's I've had sort of my previous passion, which was growing up with hockey my entire life. So it's sort of when I look back now, you sort of don't realize what you have then. You sort of have a limited window of ability to play sports and compete. Once you get older, these things go away, and at the time you don't think about it, you don't know it.
When you're young and you don't think about it.
Yeah, and some of it, while I was passionate about it, I took some things for granted, and I don't think that you appreciate it at the time. It's funny that we touched on school and education. At the time, I definitely didn't appreciate where I was and what I was doing, and slacked off in school and things like that. Whereas, you wish you could kind of tell your younger self, like, hey, pay attention and take this a little more seriously. And then, yeah, even from, phasing into a career perspective, I think I made a lot of mistakes, learned a lot through my first experience, which I've definitely translated and transferred to, future ones. But some of the things we touched on earlier, being careful about who you go into business with.
Pay attention.
Yeah, it's be a bit more methodical about certain things that you are doing and getting involved with. And if something's a good deal, it's still going to be there. And just be cautious not to jump into something too early, too quickly. So I guess there's 3 pieces of advice through 3 different phases of life.
So if you were, that's the last one. Finally,
Yeah.
If you were about to give a speech for 100, well, let's say 1 million people, but only had a sentence to say it, what sentence, what phrase would you use?
Okay.
Would you choose?
So there's this quote that
Please.
I tend to really like. Let me make sure that I have it right here. So the quote goes, "What lies behind us and what lies before us are tiny matters compared to what lies within us." So essentially the meaning of that is there's difficult things behind us that have happened. There may be difficult things ahead, but what's important is what is within us and what we're sort of what makes us as a person. And so I think that that's really important to remember all the time. You're going to have tough things in life. Things are going to happen. But it's you can't worry about those types of things, whether they be in the past or if something happens tomorrow. You just kind of focus on who you are as a person, and if you are a good person and you have sort of the right thought process about things, you're going to get through anything. So that's a quote that I really like. I don't know that I would give that one-line speech in front of 1 million people, but it's something that I really like, and I think that it's very well put and resonates with me.
And it ends the podcast in a really amazing way. Joe, thank you for being here. Thank you for sharing with us. Thank you for your generosities and your tips, your experience, your knowledge, your techniques, your habits, your lifestyle. Thank you, and I'm sure it helps. It helped to the first person it listened, which is me. I'm listening now in real time. It helped me. Was valuable. It was amazing, and thank you for being in the podcast, and thank you for your work and for the effort and the passion you put in the things you do that really inspires and really gives momentum to other people like me, for example, and a lot of listeners that will listen to this interview and will agree with me. Thank you, Joe. Thank you so much.
Yeah, well, thank you, man, and give me a call anytime if you need to chat, or if I need to get back to you on a couple of these books and lines. And
for sure. I mean, we'll add these resources to the podcast, and also, you've listened this interview with Joe Gardner, which is, as you can know by yourself, is pure entrepreneurship but in its more pure form, which is creating, improving, designing, enhancing, launching, just doing things because you feel passionate about. This is the most pure form of entrepreneurship, doing things, and as you know, he doesn't stop doing things. So this is what really inspired. I mean, we cannot stop right now. I mean, life is too short to stop. I mean, life is too short to not doing the work that you feel passionate about and really matters. So this is a call for any of you listening to this podcast. You've listened Joe Gardner, and also you listen Disrupt Everything podcast series. Sorry, and here straight from now in Santa Monica. And the final call to action is don't subscribe Don't recommend. Don't do what everyone says. I mean, I don't want more subscribers. I don't want more listeners. I want people that really takes action and is fulfilled by the life they're living. And with this, this is my return on investment. So I hope you get the chance. I hope you enjoy it as much as I enjoy it, and see you next time. Thank you, Joe.
Thank you, man.
Esto ha sido Disrupt Everything by Isra García. Encuentra el riesgo antes de que el riesgo te encuentre a ti.